The Sahel, a vast, semi-arid ribbon of land stretching across Africa just south of the Sahara Desert, has become the epicenter of a devastating and complex global crisis. This region, encompassing nations like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, was once a crossroads of cultures and trade. Today, however, it is a landscape defined by escalating violence and profound human suffering. The lethal cocktail of religious extremism, political fragility, and environmental collapse has transformed this historically significant area into what many now consider the most dangerous place on Earth. Understanding the Sahel is to understand the confluence of modern threats that can unravel a society and destabilize an entire continent. The world is witnessing a catastrophe unfold in real time. The surge in violence has been nothing short of catastrophic. In the first 7 months of 2023 alone, a staggering 7,800 civilians were killed, a grim testament to the unchecked brutality sweeping the region. This wave of terror is driven by some of the world's most formidable extremist organizations. Groups such as Jama'at Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, an al-Qaeda affiliate, and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara now operate with terrifying impunity. They do not merely conduct hit-and-run attacks. In many areas, they have effectively replaced the state, imposing their own harsh rule and turning vast swathes of territory into no-go zones for governments and aid agencies alike. This is not just insurgency, it is the establishment of parallel, violent states. These extremist groups have become masters of exploiting local grievances and power vacuums. They target not only state security forces, but also ordinary citizens, creating a climate of constant fear. Christian minorities and Muslims who do not adhere to their rigid ideology are systematically persecuted, their villages attacked, and their places of worship destroyed. In Sudan, since its civil war erupted in April 2023, at least 165 churches have been deliberately destroyed or repurposed, a clear sign of the religious persecution fueling the conflict. This violence is strategic, designed to cleanse areas of diversity, terrorize populations into submission, and erase centuries of coexistence, making any future peace-building efforts incredibly difficult. The nature of the conflict is constantly evolving and expanding. We have seen recent incidents that highlight the sheer scale of the bloodshed. For instance, in April 2023, the military in Burkina Faso was blamed for a horrific massacre of 136 civilians, demonstrating that even state actors are implicated in the violence against their own people. More recently, in 2025, the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara claimed responsibility for killing 29 soldiers in western Niger, while Jama'at Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin killed another 10 in the Tillaberi region. These attacks are not isolated. They are part of a persistent, grinding campaign of violence that has made daily life an exercise in survival for millions with no end in sight. The security crisis in the Sahel is inextricably linked to a catastrophic failure of governance. The region has been gripped by a coup contagion, with a string of military takeovers dismantling fragile democratic institutions and replacing them with unaccountable juntas. The coup in Niger on July 26, 2023, was the 9th such event in West Africa in just 3 years. This trend has not only destabilized individual nations, but has also fractured regional cooperation. In a defiant move, the military governments of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger formed the Alliance of Sahel States, a mutual defense pact that signals a decisive break from established regional bodies like ECOWAS and the G5 Sahel, which were designed to foster collective security. This political turmoil has directly benefited the extremist groups, as governments become consumed with internal power struggles and international isolation. Their ability to project authority and provide basic services to their citizens vanishes. The new military leaders often adopt a hard-line, security-first approach that proves counterproductive. For instance, Mali's junta unilaterally withdrew from the 2015 Algiers peace agreement in January 2024, a landmark accord designed to end the long-running conflict with Tuareg separatist groups in the north. By labeling all armed opposition groups as terrorists, the regime closed the door on dialogue, pushing former allies into the arms of jihadists and increasing the likelihood of a full-scale civil war. The withdrawal of international partners has compounded this governance vacuum. For years, French forces under Operation Barkhane and a UN peacekeeping mission in Mali provided a crucial, albeit imperfect, security buffer. However, following demands from the new military regimes, these forces have departed. France completed its withdrawal in 2022, and the UN mission concluded in late 2023. This departure created a massive power vacuum that jihadist groups and other armed actors have eagerly filled. The new juntas have turned instead to mercenaries, such as Russia's Wagner Group in Mali, whose brutal tactics and alleged war crimes, including the Moura massacre of over 300 civilians in 2022, only deepen the cycle of violence. The breakdown of diplomacy has now reached a perilous new stage. In a shocking escalation in April 2025, Algeria shot down a Malian drone, triggering a full-blown diplomatic crisis. In response, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso recalled their ambassadors from Algiers, accusing their powerful northern neighbor of sponsoring terrorism. This unprecedented rift between key regional players has shattered the remaining pillars of collective security, with nations pointing fingers and withdrawing from joint anti-terrorism efforts. The jihadist groups are the only winners. They thrive in the chaos, exploiting the diplomatic disarray to expand their influence and intensify their campaigns of terror across the region. The spiraling violence and state collapse have unleashed one of the world's most severe humanitarian crises. The sheer numbers are difficult to comprehend. Across the central Sahel nations of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, more than 3.3 million people had been forced from their homes by early 2024. These are not just statistics. They are farmers, traders, teachers, and children who have lost everything. They flee with nothing but the clothes on their back, escaping massacres, forced recruitment by extremist groups, and the complete breakdown of law and order. Their displacement is not a temporary inconvenience, but a profound and often permanent rupture of their lives and communities. This mass displacement places an unbearable strain on already impoverished host communities and fragile states. In the Liptako-Gourma area, the volatile border region where Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger meet, an estimated 2.6 million people are internally displaced. Another 2.8 million are displaced in the Lake Chad Basin. The scale is immense, with Sudan's civil war alone displacing over 8 million people since it began. These displaced populations live in precarious conditions, often in overcrowded camps or with host families who have little to spare. They face acute shortages of food, clean water, shelter, and medical care, creating a fertile ground for disease and malnutrition. The social fabric of the Sahel is being torn apart. With a population that is overwhelmingly young, approximately 65% are under the age of 25. The crisis is stealing the future of an entire generation. High unemployment and a lack of educational or economic opportunities create a deep sense of hopelessness, making young men in particular vulnerable to recruitment by extremist groups. These organizations offer not just an income, but also a sense of purpose and status to those who have been left behind by the state. This demographic time bomb, combined with widespread poverty, ensures a steady supply of foot soldiers for the jihadist cause, perpetuating the cycle of violence. The crisis is also profoundly shaped by the environment. The Sahel is on the front lines of climate change, with temperatures rising 1.5 times faster than the global average. This has led to more frequent and severe droughts, desertification, and unpredictable rainfall, devastating the agriculture and pastoralism that sustain the majority of the population. The resulting competition over dwindling resources such as fertile land and water fuels conflicts between farming and herding communities. Extremist groups are adept at exploiting these tensions, stepping in as arbiters and protectors for one side, thereby deepening social divisions and drawing more people into their violent orbit. It may be tempting for the wider world to view the Sahel's implosion as a distant regional problem. This is a dangerous miscalculation. The instability radiating from this vast, ungoverned space poses a direct threat to global security. The extremist groups operating there, including affiliates of both Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, harbor transnational ambitions. As they consolidate their control over territory, they are creating safe havens from which to plan and launch attacks against Western interests in Africa and beyond. The collapse of state authority in the Sahel is not just a tragedy for its people. It is a clear and present danger to international peace and security. Furthermore, the humanitarian catastrophe has global repercussions. The unprecedented levels of displacement are putting immense pressure on neighboring countries, threatening to destabilize the more stable coastal nations of West Africa, such as Ghana, Togo, and Benin. As the crisis deepens, we are likely to see a significant increase in migration flows towards North Africa and Europe, as desperate people seek safety and opportunity. A failure to address the root causes of this crisis now will inevitably lead to greater political and social challenges on Europe's doorstep in the years to come. Ignoring the suffering in the Sahel is to invite a larger, more intractable crisis tomorrow. The crisis also has significant economic implications. The Sahel is rich in natural resources, including uranium and gold, which are important for the global economy. The growing instability threatens access to these resources and disrupts supply chains. Moreover, the extremist groups are funding their operations through illicit activities, including smuggling, kidnapping for ransom, and illegal mining. This shadow economy not only strengthens their hold on the region, but also integrates them into global criminal networks, spreading corruption and lawlessness far beyond the Sahel's borders. The world economy is not immune to the chaos unfolding in this strategic part of Africa. Ultimately, the crisis in the Sahel is a test of our shared humanity and our collective will to act. The international community's withdrawal and pivot away from the region have proven to be a strategic and moral failure, allowing a region the size of Western Europe to become a black hole of extremism, conflict, and human despair is an abdication of responsibility. The fate of the Sahel's 300 million people matters, not just for strategic reasons, but because their struggle is a reflection of the challenges, from climate change to governance, that we all face. A stable and prosperous Sahel is in everyone's interest. A failed one will be a burden on us all.